Welcome back to NFL Talking Points. I am your host, Joseph Gardner. Today we are talking power rankings, and of course, we can't do power rankings without bringing in our favorite power rankings buddy, Matthew R. Scott of the Matthew R. Scott Sports Show. Matthew, how are you doing this week?
We're doing so good and so glad to be talking power rankings with you. Excited to be here, as always.
I love having Matthew here. It's always so much easier when you can talk to someone else, and it's easier when you can talk to someone else who knows ball. Matthew knows ball. He's been killing it all week on his game picks. So, all year on his game picks, he's been blowing me out of the water. I will say, I think I like my power rankings so far, but we'll get into that right now. Let's start with our Tier 1. This is our top tier, teams 1 through 8. Our combined rankings, Colts at number 1, Lions at 2, Chiefs to 3. They move up 4 spots all the way to 3rd place. Rams down 1 place after their bye week. The Packers at 5. Bills come up 4 spots into Tier 1 to number 6. The Bucks are at 7th place. They come down 3 spots. And the Eagles are at 8. Stay where they're at. That is our top 8. For me, I had everyone I didn't even move anyone in this first tier. I had everyone in the exact same spot as last week. But Matthew, so much movement from you. I'd like to start. You have the Eagles up 4 spots after beating the Giants, who are, we'll get to them in our power rankings. They're not a good team without Cam Scannabo and without Malik Neighbors, and they jump up 4 spots. Why do you have the Eagles jumping so much?
Yeah, last week we talked, and last week you had, I don't want to say you got on to me, but you got on to me for being like, why are the Eagles so low in your power rankings? And I said, you know what, I just need to see 1 or 2 more weeks of gameplay. There's still a lot of question marks in this Eagles team, specifically on the defensive side of the ball. The offensive side of the ball is starting to show out a little bit more the way that I thought that they should be. This Eagles team is 6-2, which is still a very solid record. Yes, they got a win over a decrepit team this week, one that's not too solid, one that is now losing players, one that is an organization with a lot of question marks, and a head coach in Brian Dable who is going back into a hot seat if he wasn't already before. I know that all of this points towards I should just leave the Eagles where they were at or, a little bit lower, but the Eagles are for real for me again. It is all of a – while my game picks are very much more analytical and statistical, my power rankings sometimes feel like I'm putting a blindfold on and throwing at a dartboard. I understand that. But this is a team that feels real. I go off of gut feeling with these power rankings if they were to go up against others who would kind of win the outcome. In my opinion, this Eagles team jumps 4 because they are back in the game. Saquon Barkley breaks out for 150 yards. Not much more justification on my end other than this is a team that needed another win or 2 to convince me, and they have convinced me now.
And, you and I have the Eagles in pretty opposite spots. You move them up 4 spots all the way to 3. I kept them down at 11. They didn't move for me at all, which puts them at 8 on our combined rankings. The other team that I guess 2 more for this for that I wanted to ask you on this one. Bills up 7 spots. That's quite the jump. It knocks our Broncos down 1 spot because we need to make space for a team above them, even though both of our Broncos are at 9. We'll get to them. They come down to 10 because we got to fit the Bills back into Tier 1. Bills up 7 spots after a 40-9 win over the Panthers. What'd you see in this that gave you such a big jump?
Yeah, you know what? I think that I'm just going to have to give the Panthers a little bit more credit than I think that I was giving. A 4-4 team going up here against the Bills. The Bills also now moved to 5-2. I guess the Panthers weren't 4-4. They were 4-3 previously, going up against a 4-2 Bills team. The Bills team that's been missing for me, that's been so far down, a lot of it has been their defense, their run defense. Josh Allen hasn't shown out the last few games like he did earlier this season. Well, James Cook, let James cook. He's back. 216 yards, 2 tuds. Allen accounts for 3 touchdowns. So the offense is all the way back. 40 points. That's a great offensive showing. But then the run defense, the run defense and the defense is absolutely back as well. 9 points. Carolina is held to. Carolina has been starting to surge on offense in recent weeks. A lot of their offense has been their run game. Buffalo comes in and fills all of the gaps in the porous defense that I've seen so far this year. Buffalo jumps all the way back to 7. I think that this is not up to 7, up 7 spots to number 4. I think this is a Bills team that is capable of beating almost anybody below them, actually, and that's why I put them up where they're at.
And I completely am fine with that logic. This Bills team is coming into their own, and like you said, if this defense can take a step up and Josh Allen and James Cook can play at their ceiling, they're one of the hardest teams in the league to beat. Last, you've got the Rams down 4 after a bye week. Rams didn't play this week, and they dropped 4 spots. What'd they do to deserve that?
Yeah, here I am. I'm punishing teams for not doing anything, and I'm a hypocrite because in college football, especially my teams in college football, when I see my team that's ranked in the top 25 and they don't play a week and then they drop in the AP poll, I'm like, what are we doing, guys? Why are what? But I guess that I have a little bit of empathy now for those AP voters that do that in college football. Rams drop for me not necessarily because they did anything wrong, and I would even say let's not focus on the drop as much as I saw output in the teams that I've placed above them now: Packers, Chiefs, Bills, Eagles, and then of course the Colts and Lions continuing to do their thing. These are all teams that I saw positive output from this previous week that made me say, okay, I think that this is a team that could right now beat a Rams team that is still suffering from multiple injuries. Don't get me wrong, the Rams are still going to make a lot of noise coming towards the end of the regular season and into the postseason.
I love it. You've got Rams at 7. I've got the Rams up at 2 still. For my power rankings, I have a rule, even though it's incredibly inconvenient sometimes, that I don't move teams that are on bye. I just don't let myself do it. And a lot of times that can lead to things that don't make sense to me. But here we are. We've got I've got the Rams at 2. I'm with you. I probably should have dropped them based off of how well other teams played this week, but
sure,
they'll stay at 2 for me this week, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
in week 8.
Not only did you not drop them based off of what other teams have done this week at all for you. You have 3 teams in your top 11 all on bye. You didn't move any of them. You didn't move anybody in your top 11. Yeah, you're like, so like why? I mean not why, but yeah, why?
I liked my order, and here's everyone in my top 11 all got wins this week. And they were all pretty significant wins besides the teams on bye. Rams, Lions, and Seahawks, 3 of the top 8 were all on bye this week. For me, I just didn't see enough from one team in a specific game that would say this team deserves to jump now another team that got a win this week who also got a win in pretty significant fashion. I mean, the Bills, you've got them winning 40-9 against the Panthers. Okay, I should move them up. But the teams above them, Seahawks on bye, I'm not moving them. Bucks just won their game 23-3 against the Saints. Packers beat the Steelers in a pretty significant manner. Chiefs rout the Raiders. Colts rout the Titans. And everyone else is on bye. So it's one of those things. Everyone got a win that was supposed to get a win in this top group, and I just couldn't bring myself to change anything. I like the order that I have it in. So
okay, yeah, you know what? No argument there. I do have to say, of course, I'm going to say this before we move on. I should have said this at the beginning of the episode. My power rankings are, to me, yes, it is like where do I see each team in terms of their stationary position within the league, in terms of their overall output compared to the rest of the league, power in terms of could they overpower one team over another. But also a lot of this just goes into, like, I just elementary simplify it. This is just where I see all 32 teams in the order of who I think is the best team right now. Honestly, like, statistics aside, everything aside. And so, like, a lot of movement this week because I feel like that I gained a lot of clarity on a lot of teams. And we'll talk about that moving forward. But
I love that. The clarity, that's kind of what this week was about. I mean, this week had a ton of blowouts, but it also
boring week.
Yeah, but it does help you get a feel for who these teams actually are. Finally, coming into week 9 now, halfway through the season, we're finally saying, okay, that's who this team is. Okay.
Sure, and some more than others for me. I'll be completely honest. I'll talk about one here in a bit that I've been so confused about all year that I don't know why I have been. And you might know, or avid listeners might know the team. But we'll talk here in a minute.
Yes, sir. Okay, let's move on to Tier 2, 9 through 16. At number 9, we've got the Seahawks. Seahawks.
I love it.
Seahawks, who were on bye. They dropped 3 spots out of our top 8. We've got the Broncos. We both had the Broncos at 9. They dropped 1 spot to 10 just because we had other teams climbing. Patriots stay where they're at 11. Niners stay at 12. Chargers up 1 spot coming off of their win over the Vikings to 13. Steelers drop a spot, so Chargers-Steelers just switch. Steelers losing to the Packers this week. At 15, you've got the Jaguars staying where they're at, on bye, and the Bears coming off of their loss to the Ravens, stay where they're at 16. Matthew, what do you see in this Tier 2 that stands out to you?
Yeah, you know what? How about we just go right across the middle of that board there with all the equal signs. 49ers staying 12, 12, and 13. So you're 13, my 12, combined 12. 49ers don't move. I have an opinion on this, but what do you think of this 49ers team right now? Not necessarily in relation to power rankings, but what are you thinking and say is happening in San Francisco that's keeping them where they're at?
They have the coaching to get them where they need to go. They have really good players. Unfortunately, a lot of them are out now for the season. Fred Warner, Joey Bosa specifically, I feel like changes that defense. But I do feel like Robert Saleh has this defense playing more
awesome
through a scheme than through players. And I think that I don't remember who Fred Warner's backup was who came in, but he was playing pretty well in this game. And I think that they just happened to go up against one of the best defenses in the league in the Texans. I think that this 49ers team just kind of had a bad day at the office, and they're missing pieces on offense too. Brock Purdy, Ricky Pearsall, I think 2 of the biggest pieces for that team. It takes away their downfield ability when you take away those 2 players on offense. So for me, I think it's mostly injuries that are causing this 49ers team to kind of just hover in the middle here.
Sure.
And so I like not moving them. Sure, they lost to what looks like kind of a bad Texans team, but it's a Super Bowl caliber Texans defense, and I think they played well. And like you said, it's the coaching, especially on defense, I think can get them through this.
Yeah, and I agree. I think the name that you're looking for, back up to Fred Warner, is last name Bethune was his name. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that the 49ers, in my opinion, this game was less about the 49ers. It was more about the Texans. And as you can see, I won't talk about them too much because they're in your Tier 3, but you can see that the Texans sneak up into my Tier 2. I give a lot of credit to the AFC South being a Colts fan. I think that's just also kind of a little bit of an internal bias, just fearful of the teams that are within the division other than one team that's in blue and white that plays in Tennessee. But this tier stands out as teams that could really have a breakout. A handful of these teams are going to be playoff teams. They could make some noise into the postseason. Less movement here for me, other than, of course, that Seahawks drop there on a bye, which, again, it's more about the teams that passed instead of the teams that the team that did drop. Um, and just looking at yours, Chargers are up 3. I know that they had a big win here this last week, Thursday night on the Vikings. Anything from that game that really stood out to you other than the fact that Justin Herbert's still the guy?
Yeah. Every time that I say I don't know about Justin Herbert, he proves me wrong every single time. So I got to stop. I got to stop doubting Herbert's abilities. That said, this if you look at success rate, play to play on offense, the Chargers were like 25% more successful play to play than the Vikings, which is kind of that is a crazy number. I mean, when a team wins, you expect maybe 10, maybe 15% net success rate on that, and it was 20, like almost 25% for the Chargers.
Yeah.
Joe Alt is back.
Yeah.
That makes a massive difference on this team. I like this Chargers team, especially with Joe Alt returning. I think that's a bigger deal than people
Make
give
it out
credit
to be.
for.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. So I bring the Chargers up 3 spots. We'll see if they can keep it going.
I love it. 273 yards per game. That's the most in the league for passing yards per game, and it's the passing offense that's just going to get even better, like you said, with Joe Alt back. So I completely agree with you.
Love it. Okay, let's move on to Tier 3. This is teams 17 through 24. At 17, we've got the Commanders coming off of a loss, staying where they're at. Then we've got the Texans with their win over the 49ers coming up 4 spots to 18. Panthers coming up 1 spot after a loss to the Bills, up 1 spot. And then we've got the Vikings with a loss staying where they're at. Cowboys with a loss staying where they're at. Ravens up 1 spot after their win over the Bears. Falcons down 5 after their embarrassing loss to the Dolphins. And the Cardinals coming up 1 spot on a bye from our Tier 4 into Tier 3. They replace the Giants. Matthew, in this one for me, the biggest thing that I saw was, I guess it's not the biggest jump, but the most interesting jump for me from you was the Cowboys up 3 spots after losing 24 to 44. And they go up 3 spots. What did you see to put them up 3 spots there?
I know this is a confusing week for everybody. They're looking at Matthew's power rankings. They're like, what in the H word is this guy doing? I'll tell you what, it's just like the top 2 tiers. This is less about the team that's moving up, and it's more about the team that is now moving down. I think with a week of so many blowouts, we talked about this at the beginning of the episode, the clarity that comes. Yes, the Cowboys are still a questionable team for me. Yes, the Cowboys are a 3-4-1 team. They did lose to a very solid Broncos team who now moves to 6-2, by the way. But this is less about the Cowboys moving up and more about I have to put guys that were above the Cowboys down this week for my own justification and sanity. Some of these blowouts really exposed teams that I had questions about, teams that have good wins this year. I will give these teams credit. But some of these teams came out this week and proved to me you are not a solid team. You are not a fundamentally sound team. I have to move you down. You deserve where you're at right now. I will die on the hill that this week's power rankings feel right to me. But this Cowboys team, missing a lot of defensive components, still has the offensive components. I think Denver also had their best week of the season so far. Not going to knock any credit for Denver. Because of that, it's the teams that are moving below them. But Cowboys get a little bit of a jump because of that, in my opinion.
I think that's fair. You've got the Bears coming down 2, Panthers coming down 1, Commanders coming down 3, Falcons coming down 6. All of those teams lost, and you moved all of them. But on my side, I kept the Commanders the same, kept the Falcons the same, kept the Vikings the same, kept the Panthers the same. I didn't move just about anyone this week. I did move the Cowboys down 3. So my Cowboys are down at 24. You've got the Cowboys at 17. They rest there kind of in the middle at 21. I do think the Cowboys are a little low on my list. because they are a very powerful offense. But I struggle moving Commanders, Vikings, and Panthers. Do I move all of them down? And then if I do that,
Yes.
I'm raising the Ravens or the Texans. I've got to raise them up to 10 spots.
Sure.
And
I get it.
I
Power
don't see
rankings
those-
are not meant to be easy. They're not meant to be a cakewalk. Else we wouldn't have a show if they were.
You and I took opposite paths. I didn't move anyone, and you.
I
moved
overreacted.
everyone.
I was watching football and looking at scores and stats throughout the weekend, and I was panicking. I'm like, but also through the panic came the calm. I was like, you know what? I'm done with some of these teams. And because it's in our combined tier 3, I'm going to talk about them right now. And that is the Atlanta Falcons. I am done with the Falcons. This is the team I was referring to. I've been so confused all year. They've had good wins. They've had bad losses. They've had good games. They put up a fight against the Niners team. They lost 30-0 to the Panthers. They beat the Commanders.
And the Bills.
And the Bills. They beat the Bills, man. It's so hard for me to look at a team, and that's why I'm so confused. Well, now we have a team that goes into I'm pulling up some of the stats right here, but it goes they're at home and they're playing Miami, and the Dolphins take it to them. This is a Dolphins team that I've been so low on this year.
Dolphins were ranked 30th last week in our power rankings.
Oh my gosh. And Tagovailoa, we'll talk about the Dolphins here on tier 4, so I won't go too much into him, but 4 touchdowns from Tagovailoa. Falcons, I'm done, man. I don't even have to explain it. You guys have had some good wins. I think you had a good win against a Bills team that had a really bad week. I'm done with you, though. 3 and 4. Falcons to me are lower than they're not quite as low as actually no, I moved them down enough that there's, like I said, the Dolphins are now above the Falcons for me just because of their blowout win. I just want to get that out there. My statement is that I'm done with the Falcons this year. If you're a Falcons fan, you should be done with them too. You should ditch your team on the side of the road. Go find a new team to root for this year. Yeah.
While I agree with you that the Falcons are not doing anything to win anything this year, they're not making the playoffs. They're not a good team. I can't put them down into tier 4. I think that this team has the pieces. I think it's the coaching that is the issue. Other thing to mention, Michael Penix was out in this game, and so maybe that gives you a little bit more hope for who Michael Penix is, considering that Kirk Cousins couldn't do anything against this Dolphins defense. And, Michael Penix, I think, has looked better throughout the year than what Kirk Cousins looked like in this game specifically.
And I like, not that I don't like Michael Penix as a person, but I like Kirk Cousins. And yeah, I'll admit that Kirk Cousins did not look good, man.
He looked terrible in this game. And you know what? We'll just stay on this game. We'll move down to tier 4 really quick. Let's talk about this Dolphins team moving up 6 spots from 30 to 25. They barely stay in tier 4. Tua Tagovailoa had what looked like some of the worst pink eye you'll ever see. It looked like he was playing with a single eye, and like you said, 4 touchdowns. He played lights out. By far his best game of the year. Just kind of nuts, the sights you're seeing, like you look at Tua and you're like, how is this guy even able to see the field? And yet it's his
Get
best.
An eye patch on him. Get eye patch Tua might just absolutely make a comeback for the century.
You got to even have depth perception with the way your eyes looking.
Yeah, something's off.
As far as this Dolphins team goes, I mean, they put up a good defensive effort, which we haven't seen all year, and the offense looked like the offense that went to the playoffs a few years ago, and that had Tyreek Hill, who is not on the team right now. Well, he's on the team, but he's not playing right now due to injury. I do like this Dolphins team. I moved them up 3. I can't put too much on it because the Falcons feel like a wild card, not as in they're going to make the wild card playoffs, but they are. They're a circus. We don't know what's going to happen moment to moment with this Falcons team. This Dolphins team showed me something that they could be playing. They can be a team that's willing to play. I was expecting Mike McDaniel to be gone by now, and they were going to be sellers at the trade deadline. This win might screw some of that up for them, but we'll move down the rest of Tier 4. Giants at 26, down 2 spots, losing Cam Scatabo. That's the worst thing ever. Ugh, so terrible.
Have they said he's done
Browns,
for the season?
Dislocated ankle. He got surgery on it in Philadelphia there, and he's out for the season. So no Malik Neighbors for the rest of the season. No Cam Scatabo for the rest of the season. This could be a really fun team next year.
Yeah, it really.
But it's going to be next year. It just sucks that it's so much has happened this year.
Do they keep Brian Dable around just based on the fact that most of the team has just suffered from injury? I mean, Brian Dable's looked okay when the team has had its pieces, and I say okay because he hasn't won every game. But I don't know. I do they keep Brian Dable?
What is his contract? So he is signed through 2025.
Sure.
So
okay, which is this year.
So essentially, if they keep him, they'd have to re-sign him as the coach.
Got it.
They don't just keep him on a deal. That's a tough one for if you're the Giants organization because
he's not going to sign a 1-year deal.
I don't think he would. I mean,
no.
I don't think. I mean, maybe you sign the 1-year deal to prove you're the head coach that you are, because I don't think anyone else is taking Brian Dable as a head coach at this point.
But it would be a pretty price for that Giants front office, I also think, because Brian Dable's not going to drop. It's going to be a very interesting. We'll put a pin in that one for the future as we kind of see. But, yeah, you're right. Going to be a very fun team next year. But could all the pieces be back and then coaching an issue? This Giants organization I don't want to look at the glass as half empty, but, we could be setting ourselves up for failure here. We also might not be. We could also promote or pull in a really good coach, and this Giants team can be a really dangerous NFC East team, but we'll see.
Absolutely.
I wanted to ask you here on this final tier. I'm kind of looking at, we have a Jets first win. We both moved the Jets up 1. Titans get blown out to the Colts. They move down into our 32 on both sides. Not too much movement here besides the Dolphins and Giants, which we just talked about. I think both of us agree that Bengals and Browns. Saints now switching over. Actually, let's talk about that for a second. Saints are switching quarterbacks from Spencer Rattler to Tyler Shaw. I don't know how they say his name.
I think
Shuck.
is how it's pronounced.
Shuck. That's what I always thought it kind of sounded like a CK at the end. But Tyler Shuck now starting quarterback there for the Saints. Not really a question behind that, just more of a statement. Is there any considerable movement? We're kind of fighting for the first pick in next year's draft.
I think it'd be pretty difficult for the Titans to lose the first pick. I know the Saints have it right now. I expect the Saints to get another win at some point this year. They're a better team than the Titans by a mile. And, of course, they're only 4 spots higher than the Titans, or 3 spots higher than the Titans. Really quick, I'm going to go through Tier 4. We got Bengals at 27, down 1. Browns at 28, down 1. Saints, 29, down 1. Pretty much everyone in this tier dropped because the Dolphins went up 6. Raiders on their bye, down 1. Jets up 1 because they finally get their win. And the Titans down 1 to 32. I think this Jets team has been better than the Titans team all year. If you look at both game win expectancy, the Jets should be 2-6 and the Titans should be 0-8. They have the same record, both at 1-7, tied with the Raiders, the Saints, you name it. For me, this Titans team is just by far the worst team in the league, and the only reason we couldn't put them at 32 is because the Jets still hadn't won a game yet.
Yeah.
And Jets win their game. I'm like, okay, yep, Titans can now go down to 32.
They can take their place. That's right.
They are the worst team in the league by a mile. It doesn't look like their coaching change really did anything for them this week against the Colts. And I guess last thing in this tier for me was got to talk about Quinshon Judkins, the Browns rookie running back. He goes out with an injury as well this week. Just was a terrible week for
yeah, it was a bad
running
week.
back injuries. And they're fun running backs. I was gonna do like a segment called Funning Backs and just talk about all the fun running backs there are in the league right now. We've got a lot of fun rookies, and you would expect. I mean, you've got Ashton Genty on your fantasy team. Raiders stay at 30 or come down to 30 because of the Dolphins jumping. But, I mean, Ashton Genty is one of those that you'd expect to be good. He hasn't really done anything outside of one Bears game all year.
Which I had him freaking benched for.
Yeah, that's right. You benched him.
My fantasy team started 4-0. I'm now 4-4. But that's just how the cookie crumbles.
Yeah. So Quinshon Judkins, the Browns running back, he leaves with a shoulder injury in this game. It looks like it's about 1 to 2 weeks, so nothing crazy. But it's one of those things like this guy is the heartbeat of their team right now. I wish that injuries didn't happen, because a lot of these injuries are happening to these teams here at the bottom that are just starting to get exciting, and now they're just, okay, well, guess you're just destined for misery for the rest of the year. So one thing I wanted to mention, if you look at post-game win expectancy, the Dolphins are the second worst team in the league. And they should have the same record as the Browns, Jets, and Saints. But they've had an easier schedule and had closer games with their 2 wins than anyone else in post-game win expectancy. So,
and here I am moving them up as far as
23. Yeah.
23.
I mean, I've got them at 26. You and I aren't really that far off, but just an interesting to me. Also interesting in post-game win expectancy, 3-5 Eagles still in tier 4. They are our number 8 team. They're your number 3 team. And yeah, according to post-game win expectancy, they should be in the last tier still. Couple other notes: Broncos, tier 1 team, 5th best team, and if you look at the standings, Broncos are the 6th best team at 6-2. You and I both have them down at 9. Maybe we could consider moving them up. I think you and I are both at a point where we've got to see them play a few more contenders and actually compete against good teams to move them up into tier 1, because right now our tier 1 is stacked. We've got so many good teams this year and so many bad teams this year.
And we saw that this last week with all the blowouts.
And we saw that
too.
This week more than any week so far. Anything else on power rankings before moving on to Thursday night?
No, and I won't say anything too much about it other than just mentioning Denver. Really fun game this week, I think. The morning game on Sunday against the Texans, who have been kind of showing a little bit of resiliency last few weeks. Denver-Houston going to be a really fun game.
That will be fun. This Texans offense kind of came into its own against the Niners this week.
Which is all it's missing, right? And the Niners have been a solid defense all year. Denver's had a solid defense all year. We'll kind of see how that matches up. But
yeah, that'll be a fun game. All right. Thursday night football preview. I will be going over a preview of the rest of the games later in the week. But I wanted to preview Thursday night because I'm not going to get to it before then. The number 22 in our power rankings, the Ravens at 2-5, are going to Miami to face the number 25 Dolphins at 2-6. Both of these teams with 2 wins. Dolphins have an extra loss because the Ravens had a bye week. Lamar is off of the injury report. Officially, he will be playing in this game. Because of that, the Ravens are 7.5-point favorites on the road. The over-under for this game is 49.5 or 59.5, depending on what sportsbook you look at. Looks like it's 49.5 on most of them.
I have 51.5 on ESPN right now.
There you go. So maybe it's rising up slowly. Either way, it's a very high over-under. Both defenses are playing terrible, and both offenses have been playing good, especially the Dolphins last week. And you had that stat saying that the Ravens score 15 more points a game with Lamar on the field. So
crazy stat.
For this game, Ravens going to Miami as a 7.5-point favorite. Is that because of Lamar, or is that because of this entire team, or is it kind of both?
I think it is a combination of everything. Lamar is definitely the number one, but with a little asterisk there behind Lamar Jackson. All of the fine print coming into play. The fact that this Ravens team right now is 31st in the league in passing yards per game, 203.7. That kind of seems to be one of the only things that they're missing on the offensive side of the ball, which is kind of a very easy thing to say, I'm missing my quarterback. We're kind of missing the entire offense. That being said, this defense has not been very good either. 30th in total defensive sacks with only 9 this season, 28th with only 2 interceptions. Dolphins are 30th. They only have 1 defensive interception. So 2 defenses going against each other that are pretty bad. Thus why we see such high over-under. You might even be tempted to take the over in this one. I wouldn't blame you if you were. Since 1990, I have to tell you, Joseph, here's a talking point for your fans.
I love it.
Since 1990, only 11 teams have made the playoffs after starting 2-5. The Ravens' next 5 opponents are all under 500. Even with 3 on the road in a row, it would not shock anybody to see the Ravens at 5-5 here in 3 weeks. Maybe even 7-5, which would position them quite nicely in a really messed up AFC North for a potential playoff berth. That does not mean I'm saying Ravens to the playoffs, but this is where it could start this week. Ravens are 16th still in points per game, despite having such a rough season so far on the offensive side of the ball. And on the passing side of the ball, Derrick Henry's still getting it done for him on the run game. That's kind of all the statistics and all of the reason why I think this spread is 7.5 favored Baltimore's way, even on the road. I'll give you my prediction here in a minute. What do you see in this game that excites you, statistics-wise, news-wise?
Absolutely. You mentioned their schedule coming up. I want to just go over those games really quick. Ravens play Dolphins on Thursday. That's tomorrow. They play Vikings and then the Browns, the Jets, the Bengals, and then that's their 5 pretty much patty cake games that you talked about. And then they play the Steelers. That could be one of the games that kind of decides the division. You don't know who this Ravens team is going to be at this point. We don't know who the Steelers team is going to be at this point. So
no.
The Ravens absolutely have a path to the playoffs. You've got to win this game, though. And I think that there's going to be a fire under this team saying, this is it.
It's do or die. This is do or die for the Ravens now. I think Lamar even said that this week.
We lose to the Dolphins, and that's one more game that we're down behind the Steelers. And then in the competitive AFC, which is not quite as competitive in the middle as the NFC is right now, you've still got a lot of teams that you are going to be going up against, like the Jaguars, the Chargers, the Texans are making their way up. You've got other teams that you've got to fight in order to make this playoff team. I think that their best shot is to win the division. It's not out of reach. The Steelers team has it seems like they've got some weaknesses. I'm with you. I think this Ravens team wants it. I'm
it's
just going to
doable.
give you – yes, absolutely. And I think I'll just give you my pick right now. I'm picking the Ravens to win 35-28. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I am picking the Dolphins to cover the 7.5 by 1/2. I'm picking them to lose by 7. So that it's going to be, I think, closer than people expect. Lamar is going to give them points, but this Dolphins offense, if they played anything close to last week, could go. I'm pick, Dolphins cover, Ravens money line, taking the over on the 49.5. What do you see on this game for your pick?
Love it. My statistic was that this offense with Lamar, scores right around 34 points per game with him back in. I'm going to pick exactly that. I'm going to pick 34. That's 4 touchdowns and 2 field goals. I still think that their defense has been really poor. The Dolphins is coming off of a very solid offensive showing. Achane is still kicking butt for the Dolphins. Tagovailoa kind of found a little bit of a rhythm this last week. Not saying he's going to throw 4 touchdowns this week. I like the Dolphins in this one to score 27, 3 touchdowns and 2 field goals. So the difference there, going to be a touchdown, 34-27. Actually, no, 30. Give me 3 field goals there for the Miami Dolphins. 34-30. That gives us the over. That gives a Dolphins cover. But it gives us a Ravens win. And so you could even 3-leg parlay. Ravens money line, Dolphins spread, over, under, over. That's my 3-way parlay for this Thursday night football game on Halloween Eve. But I like the Ravens being back and starting a little bit of a run behind QB, former MVP Lamar Jackson.
You and I have the same 3-leg parlay in that case. So, maybe check that out. Don't get mad at us if that doesn't hit, though. We just like talking this stuff. It's just fun to talk about. The other one that I just wanted to talk about really quick, I've got a player prop. I've got $1 on this, so I never bet anything crazy. But Zay Flowers going over 59.5 reception yards, and Jalen Waddle over 3.5 receptions. That's my player prop for this week. For this Thursday night game, I like both of those. We'll see if that hits. Matthew, anything else on Thursday Night Football? Anything else on these power rankings that you saw? Anything else from Week 8 that you wanted to talk about?
No, I am very excited for Week 9. I think there's a lot of fun games coming up. Trade deadline next week. Teams are going to be really. I think we're really going to figure teams out before the trade deadline. I always say that, and then teams do or don't do what they do. I always feel like I figure teams out, and I'm like, yeah, this team needs this, this, and this, and then they don't do anything about it, and I'm like, okay, whatever. We're going to be very exciting, I think, and not saying that this week's episode was boring. Next week's episode, we should be pumped and thrilled. Hopefully coming into it, hopefully we have a lot of even matchups this week. We'll see how it goes.
And later this week, or maybe early next week, I think hopefully later this week, I'm going to have Matt Backlund back on. If we can get it set up, we should have all 3 of us to be able to talk a few trades that we'd want to see. That's going to be a super fun episode, so make sure to check us out later this week. Matthew, where can our wonderful listeners find you and your stuff?
Thanks for always plugging me. Matthew R. Scott Sports Show. I'm actually going to try and put a few episodes out today. This was Sports Equinox week, so I know that while we talk NFL here with our favorite cheesehead, Joseph Gardner, there are so many other things to talk about. Monday, we had the Sports Equinox, which happens once a year. NHL, MLB, NFL, and NBA all play on the same day. NBA's one weekend. College basketball starts next week. Baseball is absolutely crazy right now in the World Series, tied up 2-2 going into Game 5 tonight. And so much happening over in the European side of things with soccer, here with NHL. Lots to talk about. Check me out, Matthew R. Scott Sports Show. You could look for a few episodes today. And thanks again.
Thank you, Matthew, so much for joining NFL Talking Points. And thank you, everyone, for listening to our Week 8 Power Rankings. Check us out later in the week for our preview show, as well as our trade wants, what we see coming for trades. Thank you for joining NFL Talking Points. I'm your host, Joseph Gardner, and until next time, heed the call.